Good morning. Now, it is sunny outside and the weather is starting to feel like spring. But everywhere I look around school this morning, I see the same thing. Everyone here is in their Prior Park Games kit, ready for the Fisher Road relay later this morning. But despite the relatively clement weather, there are North Face jackets everywhere. Between July and December 2020, on the auction website eBay, someone searched for the North Face every 3 seconds. ASOS, the popular fashion website, reported a 400% rise in sales of North Face items year on year. Conquering the North Face of the Eiger, the Alpine Peak, is one of the most treacherous feats in mountaineering. The North Face fashion brand, though, has conquered the world, and it certainly conquered Prior Park. There are various theories about how the North Face brand got quite so successful. The brand has been around for a while. Founded in 1966, initially it was set up as a company making technical clothing for skiing, climbing and various outdoor pursuits, and it still produces some excellent gear for this purpose. However, people buying North Face clothing for the purpose for which it was originally intended now make up only a fraction of their market. Now, it is all about fashion. What is fascinating about this fashion, though, is that it is almost entirely driven by the celebrity culture that surrounds us. From the rise of North Face as a fashion brand for the hip-hop community in the US back in the 90s to its presence across the world today. I'll give you one example of how it's a fashion piece. In 2019, TikTok went crazy with videos of people wearing a brown North Face puffer, a nupsy brown North Face puffer, in fact. And this took off largely because of Kendall Jenner, the hugely popular social media presence and influencer, wearing just such a jacket. The price skyrocketed because demand for it was so high. North Face jackets are everywhere because they are fashionable. Fashion is an interesting word, and it's often used interchangeably with another word, style. However, today I want to explore the differences between those two words. Those differences are significant and speak to how we behave as humans, and the point at which they separate from each other says, I think, a lot about confidence, tribalism, and individuality. Fashion is the same thing as cool, or as probably would be said nowadays, sick. The way in which the North Face brand has taken off in the last couple of years has been an interesting example of how fashion works. Essentially, everyone wears them because they are cool. And for a lot of people, and certainly a lot of teenagers, they are cool because everyone wears them. That's a strange conundrum about fashion. It comes in waves. This has always been the case. It used to be that designers and fashion editors decided what we would and what we should wear. Now it's the influencers on Insta, TikTok and the like who wear something, decide it looks great, we all agree, and then it takes off. Fashion is something of the moment. It is undeniably modern, even when it is not. I've spoken about North Face jackets as being fashionable, and they absolutely are, because they are everywhere. When everyone is wearing something, then it's fashionable. When everyone stops wearing something, then it stops being fashionable. We use other words like trends to describe how this happens. At some point in the 1990s, I was the same age as every student at Prior Park currently is. I was 9 when the decade started, and I was 19 when it ended. I lived through Britpop music, really baggy trousers, crop tops, bad floppy haircuts, DM boots, and so on. They were fashionable then, and weirdly, to those of us who were there that first time out, they're fashionable again now. Yesterday's Mufti Day here at Prior was like watching a Mufti Day from 1995, albeit one sponsored by North Face. Equally, a Mufti Day in 1995 also cost £1, so some things clearly aren't hit by inflation. If we adjusted the prices upward, as we should, it would cost £1.90 for a Mufti Day today. However, there were some students yesterday who dressed a little differently. I'm not going to name names, but there were a few people that you could spot who dressed stylishly and not necessarily fashionably. So what's the difference? Well, we've spoken about fashion coming in waves, and because of this, it's temporary. Fashion fades, trends move on, and in a couple of years your North Face Nupsy jackets will probably have been consigned to the back of the wardrobe as something else comes onto the scene to supplant it, probably something that Kendall Jenner chose. Style, though, is, I would argue, permanent. People who dress stylishly tend to dress in a way that pays little mind to the fashions of the moment. In the late 18th century, men in Britain dressed in a consciously French fashion. Lots of powdered wigs, perfumes, silk, and breeches with stockings. It was, by the looks of it, all a little bit of a faff. Every gentleman, though, followed that fashion. This was until the most famous influencer of his day, a chap called Beau Brummel, decided to reject the ostentation of the moment and moved to dressing much more simply. He wore trousers, linen shirts, and dark tailcoats. He dressed elegantly, which is often a word that can be used instead of stylishly. He set the fashion through his own sense of timeless style and dressing in an understated manner. Because he was an influencer, everybody followed him, and his style became the fashion of the time. The modern suit or jacket and trouser combination that so many men still wear today can be traced back to one influencer from the British Regency court. Style, then, is essentially personal. It is what you choose to wear. If you're stylish, then you can wear things that suit you as an individual. Your colouring, your body shape, your budget, all of these are unique to you. However, fashion makes no such allowances. This North Face Nupsy jacket is something that, put simply, doesn't look good on everybody. Not everybody can carry it off. However, fashion dictates that it is worn, so it is worn by nearly everyone. Another example here would be the return of the mullet. Which has always been an appalling hairstyle. Beloved of 1980s US rock stars and Australian cricketers, it's described as business at the front and a party at the back. It can look good, or if not good, then at least acceptable, if you've got long, flowing locks. However, if you've got frizzy hair, curly hair or the like, then it tends to look a little chaotic. If you dress stylishly, then you dress in a manner which is personal to you. If you're a particular body shape, then you can wear a cut of clothes that suit you, that flatter your body or your skin tone. Stylish clothes, though, should still look good to others, whilst not necessarily being fashionable. Stylish people are concerned with the pursuit of an aesthetic that suits them. Now, aesthetics is a set of principles concerned with the nature and appreciation of beauty. A stylish person will decide what is beautiful and will wear the textures, colours, patterns and shapes that suit their understanding of that. We often talk today of fast fashion or throwaway fashion, and this is perhaps where the whole concept of something being fashionable reaches its logical, terrifying conclusion. It is essentially the business of replicating whatever is fashionable, mass producing it at incredibly low cost using low quality materials, and getting it in store as swiftly as possible to capitalise upon the current fashion. As fashion moves pretty swiftly, then it means that there is a near constant turnaround of clothing. It's for this reason that you can buy things cheaply in stores like Primark or Uniqlo. It has a huge environmental impact. The designer Stella McCartney rails against this sort of fashion, and according to her, the equivalent of one rubbish truck of textiles is burned or put into landfill every second. Greenpeace state that by 2050, fashion will take up a quarter of the world's carbon budget. So, by engaging with this trend for fast fashion, we are all wearing what others have told us to wear, and we are all destroying our planet in the process. I mentioned earlier that in yesterday's Mufti Day, there were a couple of students who dressed that little bit differently, who clearly had their own sense of style. They are, it's fair to say, the odd ones out. Now, please don't think that I, or indeed most teachers here, were any different when we were teenagers. I remember well my penchant for combat trousers. I had an undercut which looked terrible with my frizzy hair. And when I went out clubbing as an older teenager, it was in a collared Ralph Lauren shirt, dark trousers and shoes, the same as every other 18-year-old boy, because you had to, because you couldn't wear trainers or jeans into most nightclubs back in the 90s. No, I had absolutely no style when I was a teenager. And this is because style is personal. It's something which you learn. Fashion's easy. If you want to be fashionable, then walk down into the Southgate in Bath on a Saturday afternoon and pop into Urban Outfitters or the North Face store that are in that shopping precinct and buy whatever you see the kids wearing outside. You'll then be fashionable. Style, though, takes time. It is an extension of your personality and it emanates from within. It comes from a lot of trial and error, but mostly it comes from confidence. That confidence comes from courage and one of our school's values. Our school website states the following: every child is searching for a sense of who they are and the sort of adult they want to become. A sense of personal style and putting away the mullet and the North Face nupsy isn't a foolproof way to tell whether a child or a teenager has managed to figure out who they are, but it's a pretty good indication. I will end then with an exhortation, a call to arms. We have 3 school values: curiosity, generosity, and courage. And in your approach to fashion and style, I'd like you to try and think about all 3. I'd like you to have the curiosity to think about what you might find stylish, as opposed to what is currently fashionable. I'd like you to have the courage to at least begin trying out things that suit you and that make you feel comfortable, happy, and stylish. I'd like you all to have the generosity to ensure that you don't make fashion exclusionary. If someone tries a different puffer jacket, maybe not a North Face, in a bolder colour perhaps, say, well done, and be kind. Certainly be kinder than the kids at my school were when I had long hair and a long grey East German Army trench coat. I was trying to find my style, and I made lots of mistakes. Try and find your own style. You'll definitely make mistakes, but it should be a fun journey. We will finish with a prayer. Lord God, you created unity in the midst of diversity. Our human diversity is an expression of your love for the world that you created. Too often, though, we turn that diversity into a source of alienation, injustice, and oppression. Help us to recognise and celebrate our differences as your gift to us. Help us to be the architects of understanding, of respect, and of love for all the differences around us. May you walk with us as we find the courage to welcome everyone. Amen. I hope that when the time comes, you all have a brilliant break. In advance, and even though we're still in Lent, can I please take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy Easter.